Hey, what is up? It's The Field, back to talk Oregon's season-opening victory over Montana State, 59-13. Ducks with an easy win. Just watched the game back, wrote down a ton of notes, and just kind of want to go over them, give you guys some takes, let you know what I saw, what I was interested in, and just in general, give a feel for the game. Obviously, Montana State 15-0 last year before losing the national title game to North Dakota State, so a dominant powerhouse of an FCS program, but certainly no match for Oregon in this game, and I think everyone was curious to see how Dante Moore looked. You know, we get limited views of him and of any Oregon quarterback throughout fall camp, and you only get to see them in the springtime, get a little bit of mop-up duty last year, mixed results in mop-up duty, mixed to solid results in the spring game this year. Couldn't really tell if there was any separation between Dante Moore and Austin Novosad in that spring game, but it was pretty clear that Dante Moore looked super sharp in this game. Hit 10 different receivers. I got some notes in front of me. Hit 10 different receivers, 18 of 23, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns, and his day was over, up 45-6 in the third quarter. I thought his best throw of the day, and Lanning was asked about this in the presser post-game. I think it was actually maybe a Monday presser. He was asked, what were you most impressed with about Dante? Was there a single moment or a single throw? And he had mentioned that 3rd and 14 where he saw the blitz coming from Montana State's linebackers and kind of redirected the coverage, shifted right, and then hit Jay Harris up the middle, the running back, just short pass out of the backfield, but it was a gain of 50, set Oregon up for a touchdown. So you can see that Dante Moore is pretty seasoned. Like, he didn't seem, and again, it's Montana State. Everyone relax. Don't make a ton of observations or statements about a win over Montana State. I get it, but he looked really good. He looked really sharp. His arm strength. We had Tyson Alger on last week from Lookout Eugene Springfield, his new outfit to preview the season, and he was essentially complimenting how good Dante Moore looked in terms of sheer arm strength. Or Dylan Gabriel, I mean, fantastic college player. Same with Bo Nix. I think you could argue that Dante Moore's just pure strength is right up there with Bo's, or maybe even better in terms of just pure arm talent. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into playing quarterback. That's why Dylan Gabriel was so incredible, despite the fact that he maybe wasn't the biggest or the strongest guy, but he had beautiful touch, beautiful deep ball, great command of the offense, etc. It'll take Dante Moore a while, in all likelihood, to get to that level of just sheer experience, because Dylan played, I think, 5 or 6 college football seasons. But you wanted to see how Dante Moore looked, and basically you just didn't want to see him struggle, right? Like, against Montana State, you want to take care of business, and you want to look good doing it, and you don't want to do what happened last year in Oregon's opener, which was win 24-14 against Idaho. Now, in that opener last year, I believe Matthew Bedford was hurt, so Poncho Iapani Laulu had to slide over from center to guard, and then they had to start a walk-on at guard, a walk-on at center, and that was a huge reason why Oregon struggled against Idaho. Obviously, no excuses. You should still dominate a team like that. By the way, Jason Eck, the Idaho coach, where is he at now? New Mexico. New head coach in New Mexico, so shout out to him. Going from FCS to FBS, gets a nice little coaching upgrade there. Did a really good job with the Vandals last year. But basically, you just didn't want to see a repeat of that, right? You didn't want to see Oregon flop against a team like Montana State that would be overmatched, and they didn't. And Dante looked sharp. He didn't look slow or sluggish or anything like that. There's no way to nitpick this performance. Obviously, the talent level that he'll face against Oklahoma State this weekend will be better. Then you have Northwestern, and then you have the big one against Penn State, September 27th. That's when we will learn a ton about who Oregon is and who Dante Moore is. But for now, I thought that was a super, super crisp, clean start. Ducks fans have no reason to worry given that performance. I mean, Oregon scored every single drive of the game. Did not punt once. They scored every single drive of the game. And again, Dante Moore's day was done in the third quarter, up 45-6. So great day for him. I think a lot of Ducks fans' nerves are officially a little calmer now that they've seen him out in real action, dominating as the starter. just in general, like what stood out to me besides the game and besides obviously my eyes wanted to go to Dante Moore, I would say Kenyon Sadiq looks like he could win the John Mackey Award given annually to the nation's top tight end. Terrence Ferguson, who's the starter the last couple of years for Oregon, actually has the all-time school records for touchdowns and receptions by a tight end, which is crazy because Oregon's had some pretty good tight ends over the years. Ed Dixon, David Paulson, a lot of good tight ends, a lot of talented tight ends over the years. But Terrence Ferguson has the all-time record for those two categories as a tight end. He was an early round pick by the LA Rams, so he's obviously off to the NFL. It's Kenyon Sadiq's time. When he took that sweep and hurdled that guy, and then also his catch and stiff arm and run into the end zone, he is just physically outstanding. Bruce Feldman dropped his freaks list, which Amari Washington was on the freaks list, by the way, too. Kenyon Sadiq, 41.5-inch vertical, 435-pound bench press. 41.5-inch vertical. I mean, those are insane measurables. So he stood out a lot. Obviously, 2 touchdowns in the Big Ten title game last year, and I think a lot of people are expecting a lot from him this year. And even though statistically in this game he didn't rack up a ton of receptions or yards, you could tell that Oregon was really spreading the love this game. By the way, I was curious as to what the redshirt rules are. Some of you might know this, but I went and looked it up just to be safe because I saw that a lot of players were playing 5 or even 6 games last year and still redshirting, and I was like, how is that possible? So the redshirt rule in college football, you can play 4 regular season games and still redshirt, and all of the postseason games, conference championship game included, do not count towards your redshirt. So, for example, Kingston Lopa, Oregon safety last year, played in 4 regular season games, played in the conference title game, played in the Rose Bowl, and still redshirted. He's still a redshirt freshman. So basically the reason for that is that you can play in 4 regular season games, and then your postseason games don't count towards your redshirt eligibility. So I was just reminding myself of that because when you look at the Oregon running back room, 12 different Ducks had carries in this game, although 3 of them were quarterbacks. By the way, Jordan Davison, that true freshman, number 0, 6 foot 235. That is the closest thing. And again, we'll pump the brakes. But a true freshman with 3 touchdowns. He was the number 1 rated running back in California, number 8 rated running back in America coming out of high school. That's the closest thing I've seen to Jonathan Stewart since Jonathan Stewart. Now Royce Freeman was awesome. He was also a big guy, 225, 230. But Jordan Davison is a true freshman to be 6 foot, 235, and dominate like that. If you're Dan, I don't know if you can keep him off the field this year. Obviously you want to try to redshirt him and keep his eligibility, and I think that's what they're doing for certainly the first 2, maybe 3 games against Oklahoma State and Northwestern, all due respect. By the way, I think Oregon beats Oklahoma State by 40 this weekend. Oklahoma State they beat UT Martin 27-7. You already have Mike Gundy complaining this week that, Oregon has a war chest for their NIL and spent $40 million. He even threw a number on it. He said he thinks Oregon spent $40 million on their roster last year. Rest in peace, T. Boone Pickens. Rest in peace, T. Boone Pickens. And I'm sure that Coach Gundy wishes that he was back around constantly giving a lot of money to the program. And I think he was also setting himself up for kind of building in excuses this weekend. And by the way, Oklahoma State's starting quarterback got hurt. He was a transfer from TCU, so they're starting a true freshman, Zane Flores, at Autzen this weekend. Yikes. We might see a pick 6 or 2 this weekend at Autzen. That's a side note. That's a Gundy side note for you. I was thinking about the Oregon running back room. So you have 12 different Ducks with carries. Like I said, 3 of them QBs. Everyone was expecting Mekhi Hughes, the Tulane transfer, the all-conference player, to not only be one of the best running backs in the Big Ten and the number one running back on Oregon, but to be maybe the best running back in the country. I saw him on a lot of preseason All-American lists as the number 1 running back in college football, or number 2 behind Jeremiah Love and the guys on Penn State, Singleton and Katron Allen. So he's got a lot of praise coming in. And he hardly touched the ball. I'll pull up the stats in the second half, I believe, is when he officially got his first carry. And there he is. Let's see. So I'm getting a call here. See if that can ignore that. So Oregon rushing. By the way, I don't know if I've ever seen this. 253 rushing yards, 253 receiving yards in the same game for the same team. A literal perfect balance. Will Stein, like A plus. Mekhi Hughes, the hyped player who came over from Tulane. He's a redshirt junior. 1 carry, 2 yards. Now, he did have a grab, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, 1 reception for 4 yards. He barely played. Now, he came in 2 minute and blocked. He was out there more than just 2 snaps, but he was a guy that I think a lot of people were expecting to burst onto the scene in this game and rack up maybe 100 yards, and he had 1 carry for 2 yards. Noah Whittington led the team. He's a senior, 10 carries, 68 yards. I really like I said, I like Jordan Davison off the top. 6 foot, 235. Not to throw too much hype out there, but he is the closest thing I've seen to Jonathan Stewart, maybe Royce Freeman as well, especially at that age to be that big, that physical, that physically ready for college football as a true freshman is incredibly impressive. Jaden Lamar, really nice rushing touchdown to get the game going, speed down that left sideline, 3 carries, 20 yards, and a touchdown. I just thought that was kind of fascinating that Mekhi Hughes didn't play more. Dan was asked about that, by the way, in a post-game press conference. He basically said that Mekhi Hughes was out there for more than we thought, and that him only getting 1 carry was essentially circumstantial. By the way, Oregon doesn't release depth charts at all. It's Dan Lanning's going full Chip Kelly, locked down the operation. They don't release depth charts at all. It's like beat reporters are left wondering and guessing who's going to play for this team, or at least who's going to start. So I thought that was interesting that Mekhi Hughes didn't play much, but also, like, again, not to make too much of the first game, but is that Jordan Davison guy actually the second best running back on the team behind Whittington, or even like the best? I mean, it seems like Whittington and Hughes could get the bulk of the load. Dan didn't say anything about like a suspension or anything for Hughes, but so it was really curious why he didn't play much. My opinion of that is that A, Jordan Davison is really good, but B, in these early games against, let's face it, teams that are walkovers, like Oregon's coaching staff wants to get a handle on which true freshmen they should play and which true freshmen should redshirt. Also, on top of that, it's just a great opportunity for these freshmen to play. Like, play them early in the season, see what you have, and you can play them 3 more times in the regular season without burning a redshirt, or you can continue to play them all year. Like, I really do think Jordan Davison might play throughout the rest of the entire year. I think there's a chance he doesn't redshirt. He was really impressive. Other notes: Emmanuel Pregnon is good to go per Dan. He is good to go. He got hurt. The guard got hurt early in the game, and he will be good to go for Oklahoma State. The big plays that I saw: the Sadiq stiff arm, the Malik Benson touchdown over the middle. I think that was kind of towards the end of the first half. Oregon goes up 38-3 off of that Malik Benson touchdown catch. He was a great receiver in this game. When you talk about the receiving core, like I mentioned, 10 different receivers catching a pass. Benson led the team in receiving, 5 grabs, 51 yards. You have Jay Harris, Kyler Casper, Gary Bryant, DeCorian, Kenyon Sadiq. Jeremiah McClellan looked really good as a true freshman. Also on special teams, blocked 2 punts. That's incredibly impressive. Justice Lowe, Cooper Perry, and then Mekhi Hughes. Cooper Perry, by the way, true freshman who enrolled early. He could actually be a factor this year. Number 17. I don't know if they're gonna redshirt him or not. 6'1", about 200 pounds. He's a guy who could be a really good receiver for this team for a long time. They might redshirt him, but just keep an eye out for him. And then Kyler Casper, I think they're going to try to get him the ball a little bit more. I believe he's redshirted at this point. He's a junior. He's been with the Ducks program his whole college career. He's really tall at 6'5". They try to get it to him a couple times. He did have 1 grab for 40 yards. Dante missed him on an out route earlier in the game, but it's a pretty good receiving core. I've seen people say it's as good as it's been in a long time. I don't know if I'd go that far. Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart and Terrence Ferguson, that was a really special trio last year, and Trayshawn Holden was really solid. Like, that's a really special trio, man. I don't know if you're going to get much better than Tez and Evan Stewart and Terrence Ferguson, but DeCorian Moore looks like he's going to live up to the hype. He had a catch and a hurdle that was a sweet highlight play. He also had that pancake block. That was one of my favorite plays from the game, is on the Gary Bryant catch and run touchdown. DeCorian Moore, apparently he was blocking the wrong guy per Dan in the post game, but he grabbed a DB and took him all the way to the end zone and pancaked him and was hyped and was celebrating. And, dude, for a 5-star wide receiver who could be playing anywhere in America right now, he could be playing at Texas, he could be playing at Ohio State, Oregon got him out of Duncanville and Dallas. For him to be that hyped about a block, I think is a really good sign for where his headspace is at. I mean, you would think that this guy with all the 5-star pub would want to be making 8 grabs for 100 yards and a touchdown in his debut. But I think he understands the long game in college football. He also understands the awesome weapons that Oregon has as a team, and the fact that he's not the only weapon they have. And when you're playing Montana State, you obviously want to mix the ball around quite a bit, play a lot of players who may not play as much in bigger games this season, and just kind of see what you have. I'm sure Will Stein and the coaching staff wanted to do that. I really liked what Jake Butt had to say. Jake Butt, former Michigan tight end, was on the call as the analyst in this game for Big Ten Network. So apparently he actually has a vote. He's on the Mackey board for the John Mackey Tight End Award, given annually to the nation's best tight end. And he could not stop talking about Kenyon Sadiq. And I mean, how could you? When you get that catch and run and stiff arm and get off me, and I'm going to take this to the end zone for 6. Also the sweep play where he just hurdled a guy right away. Like, the raw athleticism of Kenyon Sadiq is second to none. I mean, he really might be a first-round pick. I know that in the Big Ten you have Max Clare, who came over from Purdue, is now at Ohio State. He's getting a lot of hype. I do like the Georgia tight ends, Lawson Lucky and Oscar Delp. But besides those guys, just thinking out loud, I mean, there's going to be guys who emerge, and maybe a guy I miss. Jack Endries from Cal, now at Texas, looked pretty good against Ohio State. But, I don't know if there's a better tight end in college football than Kenyon Sadiq. And there's certainly not a more athletic one. 41.5-inch vertical, 435-pound bench press. I mean, dude, he is a dog. He's going to be playing a lot for Oregon this year. All right, let me just put my notes down. I guess overall thoughts on the game, I don't think it really gets much cleaner than that or much better than that. I mean, you don't punt, and you put up 59 points. It was 52-6 at the end of the third quarter. I mean, that was just an absolute beatdown. And one of the things that Dan was asked about in postgame, and what I would have been curious about as well, I think it was Aaron Fentress from the Oregonian who asked the question, was like, how would you compare this opener to last year's? Because last year's didn't go very well. It was 24-14. They kind of snuck by Idaho, which is wild. And now, maybe what's even more wild about that result is that it actually didn't really matter or prove as a sign to come whatsoever, because Oregon went 15-0, beat Michigan, beat Ohio State, beat Wisconsin, beat Michigan State, beat Illinois, went undefeated in the regular season, beat Penn State in the Big Ten title game. Like, they went 15-0 to start the year, undefeated and ripping through the Big Ten. So that sign of, oh man, is this going to be a tough season because we only beat Idaho by 10, did not prove to become true even in the slightest. So does like a 40-point win over Montana State, like, what does it mean for the rest of the season? I don't really look at it even like that. I just look at it as Dante Moore looked great. He looked really sharp. The arm strength was incredible. I think Oregon's really deep at running back and really deep at wide receiver. Oh, I haven't really talked about the defense much at all in this game. Montana State was held to 27 carries on 46 yards, 1.7 yards per carry. They tried to run the ball up the middle a bunch on third and shorts or third and mediums or second and mediums, and they absolutely could not. That Amari Washington D tackle, who takes over for Derek Harmon, and Caldwell, who's off of the pros, Jamari Caldwell, who might start for the Chargers on Friday against the Chiefs. He looked really good. And obviously Mateo looked very good. Tatum Tuioti looked very good. Blake Purchase, now wearing number 9, kind of in an edge spot, looked good. Devin Jackson and Bryce Betcher, your starters at linebacker. Thieneman cleaned up and came up and made some big hits from his safety spot. Not that the receivers, the DBs, weren't really tested. Like the receivers for Montana State, all due respect. Although that Taco Dowler guy, 14, little white guy, little Julian Edelman vibes, he had a great game. I think he probably had close to 100 yards receiving or maybe over. So if you want to find something to pick apart for the defense, if you're Tosh Lupoy, the DC, you probably say, how do we let this little slot guy run all over the field for us against us? So that's probably your one spot where you can complain a little bit. But yeah, man, just a sound victory. The D-line looks really good. The Mari Washington there and Tatum Tuioti and Mateo. Nothing to complain about. Really nothing to complain about. Dante Moore looked really sharp. I think the weirdest part of the game was that Mekhi Hughes, who's been so hyped by national publications because of how great he's been on the field the last couple of years, had 1 carry for 2 yards. Like I said, Dan was asked about that, and he basically said it was circumstantial. He played more than a snap. Obviously, there were even running plays where the play was called for him, and then they checked out of him to pass. So they're obviously giving Dante Moore that level of responsibility where he can check out of a run play and pass the ball whenever he wants to, which is interesting insight, I think, to give a player who's already that young just that level of confidence and decision-making and authority. So we'll see how much more Hughes plays. Like I said, I think it's a combination of the redshirt rule expanding to 4 games plus the postseason, so you want to play as many true freshmen or really anyone as you can in games where you know you're going to win by a lot to see what you have moving forward. And also on top of that Jordan Davison guy just really is that good. Like 6 foot 235, Jonathan Stewart vibes. He really might be that good. So we'll have to keep an eye on him and see how much more he plays this year. Man, A to A plus of a game for Oregon, and I think that's about it, really. They play Oklahoma State this week. Like I said, Mike Gundy's been chirping a little bit about Oregon's NIL war chest. Dan did respond to that. He basically said, I bet they have more money than UT Martin. That was more or less his response. I think Dan knows it's true that Oregon has a lot of money. Whether they actually spent $40 million on the roster last year, like Mike Gundy said, not entirely sure, but it's pretty clear Oregon's got a pretty big NIL war chest, and Gundy's a little bit peeved about that, no doubt. Yeah, man, I think Oregon's going to run it up on Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State beat UT Martin 27-7. And this game's at Autzen, and OK State has a true freshman quarterback. The line, by the way, is massive. It's 28.5 points. Like, Oregon's favored by more than 4 touchdowns against what's traditionally a pretty dang good Big 12 team. So that's a huge line this Saturday at Autzen. It's a 2:30 kick at Autzen on CBS. It's going to be the Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson game. So the CBS national game of the week. All right, that's pretty much it. Just want to get on and give my thoughts. Exciting time for Oregon football. Offensive line looked really good. Poncho at center. I think I can't really say enough good things about how important Poncho is to the team. And when he's out there, man, it's a mash unit. 253 rushing yards, 253 passing/receiving yards. Just a pretty dominant, well-balanced win for Oregon. And Dante Moore looked sharp, and I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from the game. Dante Moore, Kenyon Sadiq. I really liked that corner. Iffy, the redshirt freshman. Think he's going to be really good. Thieneman looked good. Mateo looked good. And that Jordan Davison guy, he really might be the next Jay Stu. And DeCorey Moore, I think, is the talent there is obvious. Like, he is so talented. He is so talented. So yeah, there's a lot to like from this game if you're Oregon and you are Dan Lanning. All right, we are going to effort to get Andrew Greif on to the podcast coming up this week. Talk about his new book, Running Fast, I believe is the title. And we'll also talk about his article on Bill Belichick, his article on Arch Manning. He's now writing for NBC Sports nationally as a reporter. So big shout out to Greif, and I'm looking forward to having him on the pod. All right, appreciate you guys listening. We'll see you next time.